Hunting Shadows, Abyss of Shadows, Book 1. Written by Rain Oxford. Narrated by Sarah Puckett. A wolf fight was a minor issue in my world. In my bar, however, it was a problem. The only thing that could make it worse was... "Human," Brandy whispered. I groaned. "I'll deal with him in a minute," I said without looking. First, I had to find a hose for the wolves. "Cell phone!" Brandy shouted. I hopped over the bar, easily spotted the human, and snatched the phone from his hand before he even realized I was there. As I had expected, he was recording the wolf fight. Thus, I felt no remorse for tossing it to the floor and smashing it under my boot. "How did you get in here?" I asked. He gaped for a moment before he dropped down and attempted to piece his phone back together. "Why did you do that?" "How did you get in?" "The door wasn't locked." No, it wasn't. But the building did have a ward around it. Magical wards were like invisible, intangible domes that protected against whatever the creator wanted it to protect against. They could be any size or intensity, depending on the strength of the wizard who cast it. I paid good money for mine, which was intended to make humans feel compelled to walk away. "Why did you come in?" I asked. "I heard dogs fighting. I'm calling the police." "With what?" Before I could deal with him, the snarling on the other side of the room increased in volume, and one of the wolves crashed into a chair. "That's it. Somebody watch him," I said. One of my regulars, a bear shifter named Theodore, grabbed the human by the arms. "Don't hurt him." Theodore nodded silently. I turned my attention to the wolves again. As they were lunging at each other, I got between them and kicked the gray wolf, the aggressor, in the chest. He crashed into the wall behind him, while the second wolf, a younger Arctic wolf, was still flying through the air. I grabbed him around the neck and slammed him into the ground. A few floorboards broke, but that was my own fault. Several of my patrons gathered around, whereas my regulars knew to stay out of the way. 2 low growls from Deimos and Phobos informed me that I had backup if I needed it. I let go of the wolf when he whimpered. "Both of you, shift." Instantly, both wolves changed into men. The Arctic wolf, Troy, was a muscular jock-type, high school dropout who was barely legal and definitely shouldn't have been driving, even sober. He wasn't a troublemaker like his opponent, however. Melvin, an older gray wolf and unemployed biker, came in every weekend and tried to start shit whenever his girlfriend and he were out of sorts. "What have I told you about fighting in my bar? If you want to act like dogs, you stay outside like dogs." I ignored the protests behind me. "Now, get out of here and cool your heads before I ban you." "Yes, mistress," Troy said, barely more than a whisper. "And don't call me that," I said as they scurried away. I sighed and returned to the human, who was panicking now. "What the hell just happened? Those were werewolves." "No, they weren't." As Theodore held him, I forced him to look me in the eyes. "You were driving around and got lost," I said, putting power behind my words. His expression became blank as my words overwrote his memory. "You heard some strange noise, checked out an empty warehouse, and saw a stray animal. It spooked you, but that's all it was. You're going to get in your car, drive home, and go to bed. When you discover your phone is missing, you'll assume you lost it somewhere." I stepped back and nodded to Theodore, who let him go. The human departed without another word,